Is Khamzat ready? Khamzat Chimaev is finally getting his long-awaited title shot after years of exciting finishes, hype, and climbing the UFC ladder. But there are some big holes in Khamzat's game, and this is easily the toughest opponent he's ever facing to date in the reigning champion Dricus Du Plessis, who's been racking up title defenses lately and has great momentum. With this fight now being booked for August, we need to talk about Khamzat Chimaev.
But before we get into that, we're Punchlock and are bringing you guys daily combat sports videos, so if you enjoy the content, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to help support the channel. It seemed like ever since Khamzat has entered the UFC, he's just been this unstoppable force, and it's very hard to miss. After absolutely devastating opponents, dominating them, mauling them in his early UFC fights, on Fight Island, fighting so consistently, really claiming a name for himself there, and then him having a few issues, having to pull out from fights, and as well being sick, and slowly climbing the ranks, still putting on highlight reel performances, having a very tough fight against Gilbert Burns, in which we saw him finally tested, and he just barely edged that fight, putting on an absolute war against Burns. And we got to see that he has more than just his pure crazy skills in wrestling and some of his power, and he has crazy heart and determination to get the win no matter what. But also in the same process, seeing that he's not invincible. We saw that also in the Kamaru Usman fight, which was a great win because Usman, former champion, one of the best welterweights of all time, best welterweight champions of all time. So seeing what he was able to do in that very first round, pretty much 10-8ing Usman, dominating him on wrestling when Usman is such a well-acclaimed wrestler, is crazy. We know how good some of his biggest strengths are. He's so dominant and a level above wrestling some of these other guys. But we've seen some real questionable holes that could be very possibly exploited by the reigning champion Dricus Du Plessis. He's had issues with cardio, and now going into a 5-round fight against a tested champion, if he's not able to get Dricus out of there in the very first or second round, how is he going to be able to last into the final ones? So there's a lot of questions, but a lot of expectations for Khamzat Chimaev to finally claim that belt after all the hype and all the electric performances he's put on against some of the best in his division, both across welterweight and middleweight.
Yeah, the problem with Khamzat is just the speed and explosiveness of his wrestling, how he's just able to maul everyone, no matter who it is, no matter how big they are, no matter their accolades, no matter if they were a former champion or not. Robert Whittaker got absolutely devastated in that first round, mauled by Khamzat in the first 10 seconds, gets taken down. Obviously, when preparing for Khamzat Chimaev, you know you're going to get taken down. So that whole training camp, he actually had 2 for Khamzat because he pulled out of the original one. So Robert was probably drilling that takedown defense for about a half a year and still couldn't really have any answers to the pressure that Khamzat Chimaev is. It's just a different level. You can't prepare for it. He's gonna maul you. But like you said, there are those glaring holes outside of the explosiveness in that first round. He's really gonna put everything into those early couple rounds, and that leaves him very tired the later it goes on. And Dricus Du Plessis is a problem for the entire middleweight division, as we've seen so far. And he's not just stagnating, he's clearly getting better every fight. Against Sean Strickland in that first fight, it was a very close competitive one where he got the title, but many thought Strickland had done enough to win that fight. And then in that second fight, he leaves no doubt. A lot of people want to criticize the style of Sean Strickland, but at the end of the day, Strickland is a pretty tough style to figure out, and Dricus was able to very handily, pretty much putting a masterclass on Strickland in that second fight. So he's getting better. His kicks were solid. His technique actually looks to be improving, as a lot of his entries and movements and footwork is pretty goofy and sloppy. His actual striking technique, it's not even that bad, and he's clearly getting better. I'd say in the striking wise, he has a clear edge over Khamzat Chimaev, especially if it is in those second, third, fourth, fifth rounds. We saw against Usman the sloppy striking style of Khamzat really not showing much versatility. Sure, he had a broken hand in that fight, but that's another thing with Khamzat. He is injury prone, he is illness prone. A lot of times he's either not 100% in the fight, or he actually doesn't make it to the fight, with how many times he's pulled out in the past of different scheduled fights. So how's that taken a lot out of Khamzat Chimaev's career? He was once this upcoming, hyped up prospect who was very young in the UFC, the next guy coming up, and now he's the same age as the reigning champion in Dricus. So it's not like he's this young up and comer. Sure, he is still relatively young, but he's around the same age as some of these contenders and even the champion right now. So it's not like he has forever to really get this title.
Yeah, it's definitely seemed like Khamzat's career trajectory in claiming a title has definitely been delayed a little bit, at least, especially with those issues recently, him not really fighting too actively as he once did. People first thought he was going to claim the championship within a year or max 2. In the talks that were made about this guy were absolutely legendary, saying that he was going to move up and down weight divisions like he was at the beginning of his career, but at this time claiming championships. But as we've seen, he's had issues with making weight as well, especially for welterweight. Seemed like he was too big there. First, he was making his run at welterweight and is now solidified at middleweight, making his run there, being Robert Whittaker, Kamaru Usman. But at this weight, we're yet to really see how some of those issues like the cardio is going to hold up. Maybe if he's going to be a little bit improved. Maybe if those sicknesses in the past had an effect on how long he was able to last in the cage. Who knows? But here it's definitely going to be tested if he's not able to get Dricus out of there quickly. But of course, we know most likely on the ground, Khamzat has that clear advantage. He's just so dominant there. Dricus is no slouch on the ground either. But when you're comparing it to the level of Khamzat Chimaev and what we've seen of him, I think it's a pretty clear difference. While on the other side, you have the advantage of Dricus's striking, which, like you were saying, many people don't like to give the credit for it, saying that it looks weird and unconventional. However, I think recently he's definitely done a very good job in coming into his own, having some great kicks which are his go-to that are very effective, especially in that Sean Strickland rematch, even against Israel Adesanya. And at the end of the day, it really isn't all goofy, because if it was, he wouldn't have gone this high in the division. So it's going to be a real danger. Khamzat has shown to have not great striking defense at all. We haven't really seen any head movement from him being able to move light on his feet, even on the back foot to get away from some strikes. Really, his defense kind of consists of putting up the high guard, and that's about it, which is not complex enough at the highest of levels. But what he's able to do so well, of course, is on the ground and just maul opponents. We have seen solid striking offense from him because he does have great power. We have seen that. He has some decent body kicks, and his boxing is okay. It's not too great, it's not too accurate, but if it lands, it'll definitely be damaging for sure. He has a decent jab we saw against Gilbert Burns, but that's about it for his striking. Obviously, the glaring gem in his game is that wrestling, is that ground game, is him being able to choke out opponents effortlessly. So at the end of the day, it seems like the path for victory for Khamzat here to finally claim that middleweight champion is going to be to take down Dricus and be able to stop him.
Exactly, and this is a must win for Khamzat Chimaev. He is only 14-0 in his career, but he's been fighting really once a year for the past like 3 years, been very inactive, finally getting his shot at the middleweight throne. And if he's not able to claim victory against Dricus, it's gonna be tough for his career, for the comeback. He's gonna have to build his way back up the middleweight division, which is getting a little bit more stacked. So while he's on this great win streak, while he has all the momentum and honestly is a rising superstar in the making, a guy that has so much momentum, so much hype, even with him being so inactive and with him having some shaky performances here and there, he is one of the biggest stars in the UFC right now. And if he's able to become the middleweight champion, beat Dricus, you see the interactions this guy has on social media, you see how big this fight against Dricus is and how big it's gonna be. This is really the time for Khamzat Chimaev to put a statement in the UFC. He's really got to win this fight. He's got to dethrone the champ, and it's no easy feat. Dricus is undefeated in the UFC as well, on a fantastic win streak himself, and there are some other guys in that middleweight division climbing up the ranks. Nasruddin Imavov just beating Israel Adesanya, Anthony Fluffy Hernandez in the division, Rainer de Ritter now making a name for himself, scheduled to fight Robert Whittaker very soon, Kyle Baralho, and more. So if Khamzat Chimaev isn't able to get this one done, he's gonna have to start being more active. He's gonna have to start fighting other contenders, and so far he doesn't have too many wins at middleweight. He's kind of just been fast tracked because he was already a top ranked contender at welterweight, so he just fought Usman on short notice, and then Whittaker now getting that title shot immediately. But it's not like he has some stacked resume at middleweight. He's gonna have to build back, and that's gonna be tough for a guy that has so much hype, so much promise, and he's gonna have to fix those holes in his game. And maybe that comes with slowing the pace down a little bit, maybe not throwing everything into those first couple of rounds like he usually does, and instead paces himself for a 5-rounder. But will that make him a little bit more susceptible to Dricus having better offense? Maybe Dricus would want to offensively wrestle him. Who knows? Dricus Du Plessis is one of those guys that you never really know what you're gonna get, and he always game plans amazingly. Khamzat Chimaev is a little bit untested there. If anything, maybe his game planning isn't really the best, at least from what we've seen. He just goes all out, full throttle, and then gasses out a little bit. In that Gilbert Burns fight, just went toe to toe and went to war when it didn't seem like he really needed to. So Will that Khamzat come back? Will Khamzat's game plan go out the window while Dricus just stays disciplined with his game plan that seems to have been working throughout the years and keeps winning him fights? As much as people want to say he's goofy, he's one of the most active champions right now, and he's fought way more times in the last 3 years than Khamzat has, so he has the activity edge, he has the championship experience edge, and Khamzat really needs to get this one done. If he wants to put on a statement, I don't know what middleweight can beat him. If he can beat Dricus Du Plessis, who gets past Khamzat Chimaev? It's going to be pretty hard to say, and right now, if he's able to get this belt, that would be massive for his career and easily turn him into one of the biggest superstars in the UFC. But let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. Does Khamzat have what it takes to dethrone Dricus? But if you guys enjoyed and want to see more MMA, check out We Need to Talk About Ilia Topuria on screen now.